While I slept, he left, and took everything with him. While I was asleep, he vanished, and with him, so did our entire home. And it all started with one drunken mistake at an office party. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. If you've ever made one poor decision that snowballed into losing everything you held dear, then my story might sound painfully familiar. I'm Natalie, 29. And not too long ago, I truly believed I was living the dream. I was married to Lucas, who was 31, and for 2 years we had been building a life we both believed in, a home filled with love, plans for the future, and what felt like an unshakable bond. But it all unraveled in a way I never could have foreseen. The morning I woke up, something was immediately off. The house, which had always been warm and full of life, felt hollow. Rooms that once held laughter were empty. Furniture, kitchenware, even our framed pictures, gone. At first, I panicked. My mind jumped to burglary. But the locks were intact. Nothing looked ransacked. And then I saw it, a note resting on the kitchen counter. Lucas's handwriting was unmistakable. Happy New Year, Natalie. I hope this fresh start treats you better than I did. I collapsed into the nearest chair, heart racing, mind spinning, struggling to process what I was looking at. The man who had once stood by me through everything had just walked out. No fight, no warning, not even a goodbye. Let me take you back to how this all began. 3 years earlier, I'd started an internship at a mid-sized consulting firm. That's where I met Lucas. He was a project lead, intelligent, well-respected, and carried himself with a quiet confidence that was magnetic. I tried to maintain a professional distance at first, but it was impossible to ignore the spark. After working together on a few projects, our connection deepened. We started dating. 8 months later, we were engaged. He popped the question during a snowy weekend getaway in the mountains, just the two of us, completely in love and dreaming big. After we got married, life sped up. Lucas landed a high-paying offer from a competing firm. His salary nearly doubled, so he took the leap. We moved into a bigger home in the suburbs and started mapping out our life together. Kids, adventures, home upgrades. My own career was gaining momentum too. I was promoted into a more demanding role. But with the new position came new pressure. I started working late, bringing tasks home, and slowly began leaning on alcohol to cope. What began as a nightly glass of wine turned into polishing off the bottle. Lucas noticed. He first brought it up gently, then with growing concern. I shrugged it off, insisting I had everything under control. I didn't. It spiraled until one night, I blacked out completely. That moment scared me enough to get help. I checked into a rehab program and took a 6-month leave from work. It was the hardest journey I'd ever taken. But Lucas stayed. He never left my side, not even once. That's the kind of man he was. When I returned to work, I was assigned to a new supervisor, Ethan Carter. Mid-40s, full of energy, charismatic, and likable. Lucas didn't like him. He warned me that Ethan seemed manipulative, told me to be cautious. I brushed it off as jealousy. Ethan, in my eyes, was just a capable leader who made the long hours easier. When a colleague went on maternity leave, I started spending even more time working directly with him. Often, we were the last two in the office. We exchanged late-night emails and messages to keep up with project demands. Lucas noticed. He mentioned how glued I was to my phone, always texting Ethan. I reassured him it was strictly business. He didn't buy it. One night, after a heated argument, I told Lucas he either needed to trust me, or step back. Looking back now, I realized that's when the emotional gap began to form. Ethan eventually began opening up about his personal life. One evening, after everyone else had left, he brought me a coffee and asked how I was really doing. I broke down. I admitted how strained things had gotten with Lucas, the guilt I felt, the emotional weight I carried from pretending everything was okay. He listened without judgment. And then, I crossed a line. Overwhelmed, I hugged him. And then I kissed him. It wasn't romantic. It was chaotic and full of pain and confusion. We both recoiled, shaken. I saw the same guilt in his eyes that I felt in mine. We agreed to keep our distance. Pretend it never happened. But pretending doesn't erase damage. People in the office started to whisper. They picked up on our body language, the familiarity, the way we joked and lingered near each other. Word eventually got back to Lucas. One night, he confronted me. He wanted the truth. I lied. I told him the rumors were just gossip. I left out the kiss. I figured if I buried it deep enough, we could move on. By December, I was desperate to patch things up. I cooked his favorite dinner, planned a quiet evening together, and told him I'd switch departments as soon as the current project ended. Lucas seemed to soften. We agreed to start fresh in the new year. Then came the company's New Year's Eve celebration. Ethan suggested Lucas come along, maybe it would help him feel more included. I agreed. I thought it might put some of his doubts to rest. The night was full of toasts and laughter. I hadn't touched a drop of alcohol in over a year, but it was New Year's Eve. One drink felt harmless. One became 5. Lucas grew visibly uncomfortable. I brushed it off. It's New Year's, I said, slurring slightly. At one point, I sat between Lucas and Ethan. What happened next is a blur. The next morning, I woke up to silence. Lucas was gone. So was everything. I called. No response. I reread his note a dozen times, trying to understand what had just happened. Still in shock, I messaged Ethan. We met at a nearby cafe. He filled in the gaps. Lucas had tried to stop me from drinking more that night. I pushed him away. We argued, loudly. At midnight, I toasted with Ethan, hugged him close, and kissed him again. This time, it wasn't in the shadows. Lucas saw it. And he walked out of my life. I sat frozen at the cafe table, tears sliding down my cheeks. I had destroyed the only relationship that had survived everything else. Over one moment of weakness. Over a wound I hadn't faced or healed. Now, months later, I live in a small apartment. The walls are bare. No photos. The silence feels like punishment. Lucas never reached out. And I doubt he ever will. I'm sober again. But this emptiness? It isn't about missing alcohol. It's about losing the one person who stood by me when I was at my worst. Trust is fragile. It's not always the act of betrayal that ends things. It's the secrecy, the distance, and the reckless excuses we make in moments of pain. If someone loves you when you're broken, don't give them a reason to doubt you when you're whole.